Panic. That is literally the only word to describe the vibe radiating out with Lucas Oil Stadium right now. We're talking about a franchise that still operates under the towering, almost suffocating shadows of Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck. In Indianapolis, offensive excellence isn't just a nice-to-have, it's a baseline demand. And yet, as the Colts stand right on the edge of the 2026 NFL season, the narrative surrounding this entire organization is completely fractured. The anxiety in that city is palpable. I mean, on one hand, you have a team that just suffered a brutal, humiliating 34-6 blowout loss to the Atlanta Falcons right on their own home turf. You've got a roster limping through August with a really ugly 0-1-1 preseason record, the optics are chaotic, the local media is circling like sharks, and that sense of impending doom is absolutely starting to seep into the fan base. But what if I told you the sky actually isn't falling? If you look closer, if you strip away those meaningless exhibition box scores and actually examine the meticulous roster taking shape under head coach Shane Steichen, you find something entirely different. You find a sleeping giant, a front office quietly assembling one of the absolute most formidable units in the AFC right under everyone's noses.
So that brings us to the million-dollar question. When we actually started breaking down the film and peeling back the layers of this 2026 depth chart, we realized we might be looking at the single most dangerous, undervalued team in the National Football League. Look, the casual fan sees a disorganized preseason, they see the final score, and they smash the panic button. But the sharpest football minds, the most successful fantasy football managers who actually win their leagues, they are looking at the 2026 Indianapolis Colts and seeing a literal gold mine hidden in plain sight. In an AFC South division that is rapidly turning into an absolute arms race, the Colts are playing a completely different game of chess. Today, we're going to look at exactly what those sharp minds are seeing and reveal why this team is poised to completely shock the league.
Section 1. A rocky preseason start.
Okay, so to understand the massive hidden value of this team, we first have to confront the elephant in the room, the undeniable mess of their preseason. Head coach Shane Steichen has been navigating a highly turbulent, heavily evaluation-focused August. And, well, the exhibition slate has not exactly overwhelmed anyone. They kicked things off with a sluggish, completely uninspiring 13-13 tie against the New England Patriots. And let's be real for a second. Nothing quite inspires confidence in a fan base like a 13-13 tie where neither offense looks like they actually want to be playing professional football, right? But the real alarm bells, the ones that caused a meltdown on sports talk radio, started ringing during that 34-6 blowout loss to Atlanta. For a team harboring massive playoff aspirations, failing to find the end zone even once, and surrendering 34 points in your own stadium is a really tough pill to swallow, even if it is just the preseason. It's incredibly easy to look at these surface-level results and just write this team off before September even officially begins.
I mean, just look at the sheer scale of the disparity in that Atlanta game. The Colts were outgained 461 total yards to just 164. That is a 297-yard discrepancy. It wasn't just a loss, it was a total bloodbath. Their reserves completely struggled to sustain drives, they couldn't get crucial stops on third down against Atlanta's depth, and it just looked broken. However, we have to remember something absolutely crucial. Exhibition games are not about the final score. They are about extreme, localized individual evaluations. Coach Steichen used this extended training camp stay at Grand Park and the joint practices with Atlanta to assess the absolute deepest, darkest edges of this roster. He hid the real playbook, he vanilla-wrapped the entire scheme, and he basically just threw the backups to the wolves to see who would survive. And yeah, the reserves failed the test, absolutely. But the starters? The core engine of this 53-man roster? That's a completely different story.
Section 2. The quarterback comeback. All right. This is where the narrative completely flips on its head, because the revelations emerging from the Colts quarterback room are nothing short of stunning. This is the kind of depth chart news that forces you to refresh your timeline just to make sure you read it right. The contrast here is wildly dramatic. Daniel Jones has taken full command. He is the undisputed starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. Think about the gravity of this for a second. This is a man miraculously recovering from an Achilles tear, which historically is one of the most grueling career-altering injuries possible for a mobile quarterback, and he is settling right back into an alpha leadership role, looking incredibly sharp in camp. On the flip side, you have Anthony Richardson Sr., a player with immense, undeniable, absolute generational physical talent who has shockingly fallen all the way down to QB3 on the depth chart. No, you heard that right, QB3. The stakes here are astronomically high. A former high-profile prospect, a literal physical prodigy, is being completely sidelined for a veteran attempting one of the hardest injury comebacks in professional sports. The sheer audacity of this coaching decision tells you everything you need to know about what Steichen is seeing behind closed doors in practice.
It's really easy to let injury anxiety cloud our memory, to just write a guy off after an Achilles tear, but I need you to look at this number, 20. This number represents exactly why Shane Steichen trusts Daniel Jones with the keys to the franchise. In just the first 10 weeks of the 2025 season, right before that Achilles injury derailed everything, Daniel Jones was responsible for 20 total touchdowns. He threw 15 touchdowns, and he added 5 more on the ground. During that specific stretch, he was playing out of his mind. He was the overall QB5 in fantasy scoring. He was a dominant, terrifying dual-threat weapon. Yet, because the lingering, suffocating fear of the Achilles tear dominates all the headlines right now, his consensus average drive position has plummeted all the way to QB24. That is an insane market inefficiency.
Now, the Achilles is an obvious concern for anyone watching from the outside, but inside the building, Jones has been an absolute full-go in camp. He literally hasn't missed a beat. His specific dual-threat ability is the exact necessary engine for Shane Steichen's RPO-heavy offensive scheme, which absolutely demands lightning-quick processing and the legitimate threat of the quarterback run. Right behind him, Riley Leonard provides fantastic developmental upside, and he's soaked up a ton of substantial preseason work to build his foundation. And Richardson Sr. remains this uncertain, highly talented outlier currently parked at QB3. The hierarchy is set in stone. Make no mistake, this offense completely belongs to Daniel Jones.
Section 3. Elite Fantasy Football Targets. Okay, so if Daniel Jones is distributing the football and running the show, we need to know exactly who is reaping the fantasy rewards, and it all starts right here. 323. That is the colossal, almost unbelievable number of carries Jonathan Taylor handled last season. He led the entire National Football League in rushing attempts. Think about that for a second. In a modern era where running back committees are the absolute standard and where feature backs are routinely viewed as totally expendable assets by analytics-driven front offices, Jonathan Taylor stands completely alone. He is a true, undisputed, old-school workhorse.
Seriously, do not overthink this kind of production when you're on the clock. Taylor finished third in the league with 1,585 rushing yards last season, and he led the entire NFL with 20 total touchdowns. 18 of those came on the ground. To put that into perspective, 18 rushing touchdowns at a single season is historical, rarefied air in the modern pass-heavy NFL. We were talking LaDainian Tomlinson, Sean Alexander-type territory here. The Colts know exactly how valuable he is to their brutal physical identity, which is exactly why they just locked him down with a newly signed 2-year extension. With an ADP of number 7 overall, Jonathan Taylor remains one of the absolute safest, most elite bets for pure volume and scoring equity in the entire league. He isn't just a part of the offense, he is the gravitational force that makes the rest of this entire system work.
But when we actually look past the backfield, the numbers on Tyler Warren completely jumped off the page. Guys, we have an absolute breakout star at the tight end position. Warren finished his rookie campaign with 76 catches for 817 yards, 4 receiving touchdowns, and get this, he even added a score on the ground out of their heavy packages. He finished as the overall TE5 in fantasy football as a rookie. In a fantasy landscape where reliable tight ends are incredibly scarce, I mean, it's basically a wasteland out there, Warren is currently being drafted at TE4. He is poised to be Daniel Jones's ultimate, uncoverable safety blanket right over the middle of the field. Even with all the new additions to the outside of this offense that we're about to talk about, his target share is firmly secure.
Section 4. Late Round Sleeper Picks. Now here is where fantasy championships are truly won. We are looking for the high-risk, high-reward wide receivers who are flying completely under the radar right now due to the Colts' messy preseason narrative. The hidden value sitting in this receiving core is just staggering. You have a seasoned, route-running veteran in Keenan Allen, an elite, top-tier deep threat in Alec Pierce, and a rising slot star in Josh Downs. Each of these receivers offers a completely unique, highly specialized skill set at a remarkably cheap draft price. Let's break down exactly how these 3 specific targets can literally win you your league.
First up is the veteran Keenan Allen. He comes over to Indianapolis after catching 81 passes for 777 yards and 4 touchdowns on 122 targets with the Chargers last season. Now, let's be honest, at 34 years old, you aren't drafting Keenan Allen for explosive 60-yard bombs down the sideline. That's not his game anymore. You are drafting him for pure, undeniable, highly concentrated target volume. And what makes this so perfectly cinematic is the reunion. He is officially reunited with Shane Steichen from their Los Angeles days together, a coach who knows exactly how to utilize Allen's route-running mastery to just completely pick apart zone coverage. With Michael Pittman Jr. gone and his massive 111 targets now totally vacated from this offense, Allen's ability to constantly get open underneath makes him an absolute, undeniable steal in PPR leagues.
Then, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, there is Alec Pierce. If Keenan Allen is the reliable possession guy moving the chains on third down, Pierce is the home run hitter violently taking the top off the defense. He racked up 1,003 yards and 6 touchdowns last season, and get this, that staggering 21.3 yards per reception actually led the entire National Football League. No one averaged more yards per catch. Now, right now, Pierce is dealing with the nagging injury, and honestly, in the world of fantasy football, that is actually fantastic news for your draft strategy. That injury discount is actively pushing his ADP way down draft boards as casual players get scared off. But when healthy, he is one of the premier deep threats in football. At his current artificially depressed price, taking a chance on Pierce in the later rounds is a calculated risk you absolutely have to take.
And finally, we have Josh Downs. As our source material emphatically points out, and I have to say I completely agree with this take, this is my favorite value play of the group. Downs is entering the final, highly motivated year of his rookie contract. You always want to target guys playing for that second contract. He caught 58 passes for 566 yards last season while battling for targets in a crowded room, and he is currently sitting way down at WR42 in PPR drafts. Downs has already publicly acknowledged that his opportunities are going to expand significantly this season, especially working out of the slot where Daniel Jones absolutely loves to throw the football. The upside here is just astronomical for a dynamic playmaker that's somehow available in the double-digit rounds.
Section 5. Shocking defensive additions.
All right, we've talked extensively about the offense and the massive fantasy upside there, but we have purposely saved the biggest, most jaw-dropping twist of this entire explainer for last. While the entire NFL world has been totally distracted by the backup quarterback struggling to string together drives in August, the Indianapolis front office quietly constructed an absolute nightmare for opposing offenses. They completely, from the ground up, rebuilt this cornerback room. Just let these names sink in for a second. Sauce Gardner, Charvarius Ward Sr., Justin Wally, Mekhi Blackman. Guys, you don't just add Sauce Gardner to a defense. You fundamentally alter the geometry of the football field. He literally deletes the entire right side of the formation for opposing offensive coordinators. You are now pairing a generational, shutdown talent in Gardner with a fierce, battle-tested, lockdown veteran in Charvarius Ward Sr. In a division where you have to play C.J. Stroud and Trevor Lawrence 4 times a year, this isn't just an upgrade. This is a total transformation that instantly makes the Colts secondary one of the most feared, suffocating units in the league.
And right behind that ferocious, newly built secondary, you've got C.J. Allen stepping up to anchor the defense at middle linebacker. Akeem Davis-Gaither brings high-level athleticism and crucial coverage versatility to the group, which you desperately need against modern tight ends. Meanwhile, Jalen Carleys and Austin Ajieke round out the core with deep, essential special teams value. Now, to be entirely objective here, if there is a singular vulnerability on this defensive depth chart, it is the depth at linebacker. A significant injury to Allen or Davis-Gaither could force the Colts to aggressively monitor the waiver wire to find stopgap solutions. It's a thin group, but when everyone is healthy, the starting talent on this side of the ball is undeniably potent.
So, let's pull all of this together and look at the real picture. Not just the preseason headlines. The 461 to 164 yardage deficit against Atlanta? The uninspiring 0-1-1 start? It is all a meticulously crafted smokescreen. When you actually look at the 2026 Indianapolis Colts, you see Daniel Jones fully healthy, defying the odds, commanding a lethal Shane Steichen offense. You see Jonathan Taylor locked in as the ultimate volume weapon in the backfield, fresh off a 20-touchdown season. You see receiving core dripping with wildly undervalued fantasy potential from top to bottom. And you see a defense featuring Sauce Gardner locking down the perimeter. This is a roster absolutely loaded with game-changing, elite talent hidden perfectly behind the illusion of a messy August.
Which brings us to the ultimate question. With the preseason finale officially in the books and the meaningless games behind us, how will Shane Steichen and this front office handle the final, grueling 53-man roster cuts? Will they find that crucial linebacker depth they desperately need sitting on the waiver wire? Will the final wide receiver spots reveal any more hidden sleepers before the real kickoff? The blueprint of a legitimate championship-caliber team is sitting right here in Indianapolis, just waiting for the lights to come on and the games to actually matter in Week 1.
So I want to hear exactly what you think about this Colts roster as we head into the regular season. Are they the hidden fantasy goldmine we've uncovered today, or is the preseason chaos a genuine sign of things to come for Indy? Drop your thoughts down below in the comments, let's get a debate going, and hey, make sure to subscribe to NFL Nexus, like this explainer, comment your opinion, and support the channel by becoming a member. We will be tracking every single roster cut, every major injury update, and breaking down the biggest, most consequential moves across the league as we barrel toward kickoff. Stay focused, trust the process, and we'll see you in the next one.